deal with now is yesterday the president had, I don't know if they call them outreach, call them meeting, whatever he had at Melanie Namashana yesterday. And the people turned up to protest because, people are protesting the fact that following the MV Borima tragedy, the captain, the first mate, and the good superintendent are charged with the offense of murder, and Ejil, the subject minister, Indar, minister for Maran, they are still there. So the people have been protesting. All the opposition parties are protesting. So they went there yesterday and they protest. Incidentally, today I think they're at Bushlat or Uptown, somewhere the president went, and the people are protesting again. Right? So, again, I saw some things there. Police, they're in a bad state. I almost say we, but when I say we refer to us Guyanese. We're in a bad way. Trust me. We're in a bad way. So you have the thing there, and the police come, they put up barriers. So the barriers were put in such a manner that people who lived in the area were denied access. So right away, you get confrontation. I want to go home. I live right there. Police have barriers, you can't pass. Right? And then, to my surprise, I saw the man in charge on the ground there at Melanie yesterday. Deputy Commissioner Operation Watts in charge. Deputy Commissioner Operation Watts in charge, and there were other senior officers from the division. And I asked the question again, what really going on? And well, as I said on Wednesday, things like that, the commander should not be there. So I know they listen to me and decided the commander, I understand, Assistant Commissioner Sunarain is holding on there for Pasram. And if that is the case, I agree. As I have said, that is not a place for the commander to be. A commander has to be in command of his division all the time. You can't be commanding any incident or anything like that. You have other senior people. So maybe they listen to me and they send Watts, Deputy Commissioner Watts, to be the man on the ground. Send Deputy Commissioner Watts. But let me tell you the problem with that. There is what we call a chain of command, where issues are escalated. So if the person on the ground, let me give you an example. If the person on the ground is a superintendent, then if complaints are made, you might be able to handle it right at the divisional level because you have people who are senior to the seniors right at the division. But when you send a senior man like Watts on the ground, if anything is to be, any complaint is to be dealt with, right away you see what happened. It gone out of the force actually because there's nobody, you can't investigate Watts under the Police Discipline Act. You can't investigate. They don't understand these things. So you put somebody in place, and that is how you control certain things in a division. The man on the ground is of a sufficiently senior level to control what is going on there. But if anything should go wrong, you have people in the division who can deal with it. You can deal with it properly, professionally, right in the division. But when Watts goes there at Melanie Namashana and something goes wrong, if it's a crime, well, then yes, you can investigate Watts. But if it's a complaint, any other complaint other than a crime, then what happens? What happens? You got to set up another tribal union? They don't understand these things. Because they're not trained to understand these things. Right? So Watts is there with a whole set of senior people. I never see so much cakey clothes at one simple activity. So there were those many simple activities. But let me tell you, all of these activities that we've seen now, starting with the Tushau conference, where the vice president addressed them, and I think he promised them, he said that he promised them $3 billion for housing and so on in the, what they call it, Amerindian communities. $3 billion. So all they're doing, the reason for all of these visits is to divert attention from the farm gate and the MV Borima tragedy. And if you want to doubt me, not the president, the vice president, talking about $3 billion. Remember, in January of this year, they passed a budget for $1.58 billion. January. That wasn't included. So if this thing was planned, one would have expected it to be included in the budget. And then just about 2 weeks ago, they passed a supplementary budget for 54.8, almost 58.9, almost $55 billion. And this $3 billion wasn't catered for in there either. So that is circumstantial evidence that all they're doing and running around now is to try to divert attention, distract from the farm gate. And in case you all don't know what's farm gate, I have to talk about this again. This is the mega farm that the president has on the highway. They say 150 acres, and it is estimated that it is valued about $5 billion dollars. They never catered for all of those things. But now that you have the incompetence has been laid bare with the MV Barama, 1.58 trillion, yeah, I said billion, 1.58, thanks to the correction, 1.58 trillion, not billion, trillion, yeah, trillion, thank you for the correction. That means you have paid attention. But it's almost 55 billion they went back for in a supplementary budget. And this 3 billion that Jack Dio talking about is not catered for there, which means if they're to honor that obligation, they got to go back to Parliament again. That is what is happening. Hope you are paying attention. They got to go back to Parliament for more money again. 1.58 trillion in January, right? Just a mere couple of months after, gone back for 55 billion more. And y'all know the pattern? Y'all know the pattern. The only time they go into Parliament now is when they want money, you know. The only time they are going to Parliament is when they want money, and then they're sticking a couple bills at the same time. Like the former president benefits bill. They stick it in. Right? That is what is going on. So then what we have? We got 100 not James Bond. He was there at Melanie yesterday. Right? A failed businessman, a failed liar. Is he still a liar? He might still be a liar, but I don't know if he's in good standing to practice law in Guyana. I don't know if he's good standing. But as I've said, James Bond was there, and James Bond said, he said a scandal about. It's a good thing he got to represent them people. I'm going to deal with it. He said a whole set of craziness when he was confirmed. But before we go to that, let me tell you what I believe James Bond's motivation is. I alluded, well, more than allude, I mentioned it before. Let me mention it in more detail now. This is April 20, 2021. I think this is one, I think, same news source or somebody. Hear what they're saying. Shady Nissil land deals, James Bond and no show at second court hearing. This is April the 20th, 2021. Let me read so you could understand. Former executive member of the People's National Congress Reform, PNCR, attorney at law James Bond, was a no-show at the Georgetown Magistrates Court on Monday, where he is charged in connection with leasing state lands at Peters Hall, East Bank, Demerara. His reason for being absent from court, according to his lawyer, was transportation issues. Former head of the National Industrial and Commercial Investment Limited, is NISIL, Colvin Eat London, who was also charged, was also absent from court. This is his second absence. His lawyer informed the chief magistrate that our client is stranded in Jamaica, where borders are closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Also similarly charged are director of A/Z Pharmaceutical, Medical Supplies and Equipment, Inc., Eddie Dulal, and principal of the Arken Group, Inc., Jermaine Richmond. The quartet was first charged on April the 1st, 2021. Monday was the second hearing for the matter. Only Dulai and Richmond, along with the liars, were present for the hearing. It is alleged that between August 1, 2007 and November the 30th, 2020, at Georgetown, Eat London and Bond conspired together and with others to defraud NISIL, its sole shareholders, and the government of property interest in land, namely the grant of lease of land known as Plot A17, A18, A19 at Plantation Pedesal, East Bank, Demerara, owned by NISIL, without the necessary board and cabinet approval to do same, and for purposes other than that of NISIL. It is also alleged that London and Bond and Dulai, between August the 1st, 2017 and November the 30th, 2020 at Georgetown, conspired together and with others to defraud NISIL, its shareholders, and the government of property interest in land, namely the grant of a lease of land known as Plot A7, A8, and A20, Pedesal, East Bank, Demerara, owned by NISIL. Then the third said that London and Bond, Richmond, between August at the same time, Georgetown conspired together again for other land, Plot A1, A2, A3, A4, Plantation Pedesal, owned by NISIL. At Monday's court hearing, Special Organized Crime Unit prosecutor made an application for the charges against the defendants to be disposed of summarily, with no objection raised by the defense counsel. The chief magistrate granted the application. In light of this, the defendants will be allowed to plead to the charges at their next court appearance on May 10, 2021. In the meanwhile, Bond was placed on $150,000 bail, while Richmond and Dulai were each ordered to post $100,000 bail. Bond is the lawyer who had represented 3 companies that are at the center of the Petersall land investigation, right? And then go on, he dropped the lease and all of that everything. Shortly after the PPP assumed government in August of 2020, a thorough probe was conducted by the Special Organized Crime Unit in the matter, and it was revealed that several irregularities occurred. During the investigation, Bond and his co-accused were questioned. The principals of the company reportedly told the police that Bond arranged the sale of the lands, after which he found a buyer and was paid. It has been alleged that Bond received some $60 million from each of them. The lease were controversial since they were in contravention of the stipulation regarding the disposal of state lands, which stipulate that when state lands are leased, the lease must state that the leasee must not part with possession of the land without the consent of the state. However, in this case, let me read it. However, in this case, both Life One Pharma Incorporated and AZ Pharmaceutical Medical Supply and Equipment Inc., which each leased 15 acres of land from NISIL at an annual rate of $11,700 US, flipped those land to Chinese national for just over $100 million. In the case of Arkan Group, the proprietor of the company leased 20.8 acres of land for an annual fee of $16,224 US. And at his address listed as the same. Listen to this case, let me read this back. The Arkan Group, the proprietor of that company, leased 20.8 acres of land for annual fee of $16,224 US, and at his address listed as the same as Bond's. So he and Bond had the same address. It was revealed that Bond then received $1 million US for the property after it was flipped to a local oil and gas company. And I have a footnote here. In late 2020, the Special Organized Crime Unit, SOCU, and the Guyana Police Force began investigating the matter after receiving 3 case files from Attorney General Anin Landalal SC concerning the suspicious leases over several acres of prime state land at Peters Island. Yeah, I get it just now. You see what you're digging up? And I did some research this morning. Those matters are still pending. They are still pending. So Bond is doing everything now to try to lick BT and to push his nose. He is going to, let me tell you, his nose is so far up the PPP ass that he's going to die from asphyxiation. And he is not asphyxiation, ass. You know asphyxiation, what you spell it? ASYPH. He is ASS. He gonna die from asphyxiation. He knows it's so far up the PPP ass that is he left in marks. His cheeks are leaving marks on the butt. That is what. Well, he desperate. He is desperate because he end up 3 charges. And as I've said, Bun, this thing happened so long, and they're not gonna clear you until you lick more, you know. Let me understand this. Because you might have expected that since you switch, by now the matters would have been discontinued. As happened in 2020, when the 19 fraud charges against Irfan Ali were dismissed. The thieving law book charge against Anil Nandalal ended the same way. The charge against Ashni Singh and Brassington, right away, but you there licking batty for so long and then doing away with the charge. And this is the bond, you know. This is the same bond. Back in some years ago, look what the PPP did to him. This is what the PPP, they're shooting the back. They're shooting, that's James Bond we see there. I can't remember the exact year that this happened. I think Dana Ramata might have been the president. They're shooting the back. Right? And then he happened. Then when Azuddin start to show some political inclinations, look, he holding an umbrella for he holding an umbrella over Azuddin. This man is a grasshopper, you know. And no insult meant to grasshopper. That's what he's doing. So PPP shooting the back. He was very vocal and all this type of thing against her. Now he holding an umbrella for Azuddin. Now he gone with PPP. But as the people say, you never trust a turncoat. You never trust a turncoat. So he might have expected something bigger when the PPP returned to office in last year. But they give you a little MP work. They give you a little MP. Right? Some people say MP is member of parliament. Some people say something else. A main, the M is for main. Y'all decide what the P is for. James Bond. So yesterday, James Bond came out. Or as the president would say, he came in out. Man, I don't insult prostitute, man. I said James Bond is a political prostitute. Don't insult prostitute. Prostitutes, many of the prostitutes, it's not that I know from experience, but many of the prostitutes are professionals. They are professionals. Bond and no professional. Bond and no professional. And as one person told him in a post, Master, he quoted it and said, "What you don't lose, what you don't use, you just lose." So as I said, I don't know if James Bond representing anybody in court. Let me hold on a while. Let me. I don't know if James Bond representing anybody in court, but I hope not, because if Bond representing anybody in court, you're sure to go down. So what happened? You know, yesterday coming out of the thing. See, they had a big square up with he and Dr. Campbell. Big square up. And I'm sorry I wasn't there. And I would have picked up a piece of brick. And I would have gone in between. Fire, burn me on. Fire, burn me on. Y'all know that? Them young people ain't gonna know that. Friday afternoon and back in the day when I go to school. Not like now, school children fighting every day. Back in the day, you had your problems during the course of the week. The fighting used to take place on Friday afternoon after school. And then the combatants will square up. And everybody used to say they're granning. You know, you're granning. Nobody ever have a show no punch. So what used to happen now? One of the instigators will pick up a piece of brick or something, come, fire, burn me on. Fire, burn me on. And whoever you're supposed to knock out the brick out the yarn. And the first person to knock out the brick must throw the first punch. So you knock out and you throw. So if I had been there yesterday, I would have gone look up a piece of brick and I would have gone between James Bond and Dr. Terence Campbell and I would have said, fire, burn me on. Fire, burn me on. So we're going to knock out first and throw the first punch. Because back in the day, you love to see them fight. You used to happen with women too. When the women fight it, oh God, you got the fire, burn me on. I know women, so I knock off the thing there. The first thing they used to strip down, pull down somebody's clothes. And you as a little boy, you get maternity. You call them maternity. You see boobs and more things exposed. Maternity, yeah, you're running all over the place. So that is what. So James, man, when he came out from the engagement with the president yesterday, he was confronted by the media people who were there. And yes, Richard, asphyxiation. ASSFIXATION. So normally the medical thing is asphyxiation, right? But James Bond was suffer from asphyxiation. Yeah, boss man, you get fat eye. You get fat eye, right? So what happened? When he came out, they asked him something. And then he said, hey, what I say? Attorney, bond defense murder charges in MV Barama tragedy says the rule of law must prevail. That is what Bond said yesterday. Attorney at law and Member of Parliament James Bond has thrown his support behind the decision to charge 3 crew members over the MV Barima tragedy, saying accountability must be determined through the legal process rather than public opinion. Speaking on Thursday, Bond acknowledged that some members of the public may disagree with the Director of Public Prosecution's decision, but stressed that the courts are the appropriate place to challenge it. Then the court here, the law is the law. Whether we try to bring emotions into it, the law is the law. And there has to be responsibility. There has to be culpability for actions. End of quote, Bond said. Bond, you must go and tell that to Unijwal John that there should be accountability for the accident in which her son killed that woman on the East Coast. And for the one where the other son drove the vehicle off the road and damaged it, government vehicle. There must be accountability. Then the story continues, the 3-man charge. Well, I tell you the charge. We know that. We haven't got you that. Bond said the scale of the, everyone is reporter saying, the scale of the tragedy demands accountability and maintain that those responsible must answer for their actions. Listen to the dancing here now. Ask whether Public Works Minister Juan Ejil, well, by now it's not one, it's quarter Ejil, or maybe a smaller fraction, and minister within the Ministry of Public Works, Deodat, Indar, should also be held accountable. What Bond said? Bond said that issue should be determined by the ongoing Commission of Inquiry, which is examining the circumstances surrounding the disaster. He said the inquiry will reveal whether responsibility extends beyond those already before the court, adding that justice must be allowed to take its course. This is what James Bond saying. Then he goes on to say, Bond also encouraged the 3 accused to consider explaining what occurred during the vessel's final voyage, while acknowledging that they have a constitutional right to remain silent. He said their account could help shed light on the events that led to the tragedy. What account? They don't want no account from them. That is why they charge them. That is why they charge. And James Bond telling people, James Bond, 00 not. 00 not. License to Lake Batty. He telling people what? He encouraged those men to give evidence in front, to explain in front of the Commission of Inquiry. You encourage them to commit suicide. Yeah? And a good thing you're not the one of the lawyers representing them. But however, maybe he listens to me, because he did say, I listened to him yesterday, that the lawyers representing these 3 men should move to the High Court to seek a review, the review of the decision of the Director of Public Prosecutions to charge these men with murder. He did say that, and I have been advocating for that from day one. Move to the High Court. I told you all the precedent was set with the Henry Green case, where Ian Chan, when the same Director of Public Prosecutions, Shalimar Ali Haq, said that directed for Green to be charged with rape following an investigation. Green moved to the court preemptively, and Ian Chan said to the director, the ruling is there, that it is not whether you look at the statement and you see a prima facie case that will cause you to institute a charge in that census rape. He said the test must be whether you stand any reasonable prospect of getting conviction. And I am saying this, and 99% of the people, or perhaps even a greater number, will say that given what took place there is no way these men are going to be convicted. No way. No way. Right? And I say again, to tell you, me no liar. That matter is there with the Green case. One of the differences is that Green moved preemptively. So before he was charged, he moved and got the acting Chief Justice to rule in his favor. These men have already been charged. And I believe that makes it more, that means that you should move even more quickly, because the men are charged, they are denied the freedom and liberty, their language is in jail. And the lawyers should move to the High Court. Having said that, let me move to the next part to tell you all, moving to the court, I understand that it's not a easy thing in terms of finances and so on. And I have said on this program before, and I'm repeating it, I don't know who, definitely not the lawyers, because it might be a conflict of interest. I just set up a defense fund for these people. Set up a defense fund. Make use of all the avenues available, whether it's Zelle, whether it's the MMG, whether it's Cash App, whether it's an account at a bank. Yeah, move, man. Make sure that you set up so that people can contribute to the defense funds for these people. Because even if the lawyers decided they're going to do this thing pro bono, they got travel expenses are going to be incurred. For example, on the last occasion there, when they had to go for disclosure, some of the lawyers had to travel all the way to charity. It's money. It's money. So yeah, please set up some defense fund for these people. Defense fund. And coming back to the Green case, again, I don't want to lecture to the lawyers, but if Bond is listening, and Nandalal and them, Nandalal get the book like he read the book. In the Green case, remember the concept, the legal concept, stare decisis? Stare decisis. And my layman interpretation of that means that a decision has been made, or any decision that is made by the higher court has to be obeyed. Has to be obeyed by the other courts. So if Ian Chan, in the High Court, made such a decision, that's unless there's real extreme circumstances, then it might not be. I don't think they have circumstances for that to be overturned. So move to the court and get that blasted. Let me say one talk about accountability. And then the DPP jump ahead and charge them with murder. But in terms of the minister who is responsible, can't remember this boat is not owned, this vessel that sank is not owned by the men who charge, It's the government owns the boat. And the government put one Ejil, quarter Jil to be in charge. So how can these people be held accountable? And Ejil and Indar are not held accountable too. How that? Make that make sense. Make that make sense. But the scapegoat. They're scapegoating the people. And it is sad, the director of public prosecutions, I'm not surprised that she has a track record that I would not be, I'm not surprised. But let me move on. Yeah, because coming out of this yesterday, so, people referring to James Bond as a house slave. And I see a lot of people jumping house slave, they call him man house slave. Some people saying that as soon as a black person decide to go with the PPP or thing, they're calling them house slave. They fail to recognize that when Indians join the APNU, they just call them Nimakaram. They call them Nimakaram. So they're ungrateful. So they can call the Indians Nimakaram. But when you call people like James Bond, who fits the description of an house slave perfectly, who or what was house slave? You had field slave, you had house slaves back in the day, plantation days. The field slaves work in the field. The house slaves, if you had a little nice complexion and so on, you work in the master house. You cook, you iron, you clean clothes, and then they say that you get a little better treatment because you're going to get a little leftover food and so on. But that's exactly what happened. When Jan, you get a little treatment. So he fits the description of a house slave. Right? I never call him that, but people call him house slave and others. But when I did the research, I see that he fits perfectly the description of what an house slave used to be. Right? So Maybe the people should not apologize for that. Now we and we have a man that we call we have a man that we call the Attorney General, Anil Landlal SC, MP. Man ain't learn. Man is not learned. Really, really done. So he goes on NCN again, and he is saying that what he said this time around, he said that more people are likely to be charged in respect to the incident. I always thought that whether to charge or not to charge, according to the Constitution, is a decision that the Director of Public Prosecutions has to make. But here it is, the Attorney General confirming what many of us believe, that government direct these things. I know that from personal experience. So the Attorney General can go and say others are likely to be charged and so on. Dog whistle. But sure, the others that include Ejil and Indar, can't to bond. Or what they tell you, oh, let me wait on the Commission of Inquiry. Then the Commission of Inquiry will determine that. This is another sham Commission of Inquiry, I believe. It's another sham Commission of Inquiry. When you look at the composition and you look at who is the secretary, and waiting to see who they're going to put as a lawyer, they're going to find another Griffith, right? And put as the lawyer, and the thing going to cook up. It's a big cook up going to go on. So I will be pleasantly surprised if at the end of this inquiry, you hear anybody other than those who have been charged or the low-lying people are held culpable for this. I will be surprised if that were to happen. Pleasantly surprised if that were to happen. And then, as I said, they're calling on Ejil to go. They're calling on Ejil to go. And Ejil at church on Sunday. Y'all must forgive me when I go into my Creolese. I'm sure the people understand when I say church. You might want to say church. Ejil at church on Sunday. And Ejil preach. Ejil said, listen to what Ejil said on Sunday. Y'all bear with me, man. Let me pull here what Ejil said Sunday.
My final words before the benediction. I've been bitten by a snake publicly, but I will not die. So a venomous beast has bitten me. I will not die. I've thrown it in the fire. And I want from Winners Cathedral today for the world to hear, I love everyone, even those who had evil to say about me. I'm going to say it again. I'm sending love to everyone who found it convenient, fashionable to say something evil about me. I've asked God to ensure that no hate.
There you go. That's God.
What's around me do not define me. What's inside of me defines me. So all those who are looking for me to swell up and die because a venomous beast has bitten me, I want to tell you, keep looking.
Ejil, you say you throw it in the fire? You should have gone with it in the fire. This venomous beast, you should have joined in the fire. You say they're looking for, perhaps you're dead, but you're ashamed to shut your eye, you know? Back in the day, countryman talk again. Countryman man dead, but he's ashamed to shut your eye. Ejil is a disgrace. And hear what this young lady has to say about Ejil. Let me play. This is short. Listen to what she has to say.
When politicians abandon humanity, they can make people question even the existence of God. Bishop Juan Edgehill preaches God's word, yet he has refused to resign following a deadly ferry tragedy under his ministry's oversight. Where is the compassion, responsibility, and concern for humanity? Conduct like this drives people away from the church and makes them question faith, justice, and whether wrongdoing will ever face consequences.
Well said. People like Ejil driving people away from the church. Because when you see hypocrites like them stand up there, I'm not only talking about MV Barimo. I'm not only talking about not accepting responsibility. If he is a true man of God, he should have been the first to accept responsibility for the thing and say, at least I'm going to step down. You know, if he had done so, this thing might have been petering out by now. If he had done the decent thing as a man of the cloth and say, having regards to the fact that over 100 lives have been lost, I will step aside. I will step aside. Not like what Mark Phillips said, a decision for the president. President doesn't have to make that decision. Ejil himself have said, look, I am stepping aside, and this thing might have been kept at a lower ebb, you know. But now, the man that down there decide that he is going to be defiant and remain there. So, following is talk about being bitten by a beast and bitten by a snake, there is a poem. Yeah, listen to this carefully. There is a poem that I saw this morning, about almost 3 minutes long, but listen to it.
Bitten by a venomous beast. O Ejil, hast thou no shame? You speak so callously while a nation still bleeds, while many families and survivors search for sleep that refuses to come, while empty chairs and beds preach louder than any sermon. You say you were bitten, but Guyanese knows what it feels like to be bitten again and again by a venomous beast with many faces, a beast that changes mask but never changes its appetite, a beast that whispers through sacred tongues, hides behind polished speeches, and survives on the silence of those who should know better. O Ejil, hast thou hardened thy heart that remorse no longer finds a home? For everything there is a season to build, a season to mourn, a season to comfort, and even a season to remain silent. Yet while a nation still mourns, you want us to dwell on whether you feel bitten or smitten. Read the room, read the tears, read the names that will never answer a call from their loved ones again. Because if truth be told, Guyanese have been bitten for far too long. Bitten by corruption, bitten by nepotism, bitten by favoritism, bitten by the isms and schisms that poison our politics, divide our people, and tries to convince us that accountability is optional. Some say the deepest venom is not found in the fangs, but in arrogance, in indifference, in the refusal to accept responsibility when lives hang in the balance. And that is the bite from which a nation struggles to heal. This venom does not merely wound, it erodes trust, it buries and bruises hopes. It teaches citizens to expect excuses instead of answers and performances instead of accountability. So hear me, especially those of you sitting comfortably at the back of the pew. Do not mistake criticism for hatred. Do not mistake grief for rebellion. Do not mistake a cry for justice as disrespect. Because a broken nation has every right to ask difficult questions, and every public servant has a duty to answer them. But until then, the venom remains, the wounds remains, the grief remains, and the beast still walks among us.
Powerful poem. Powerful. I don't know who the gentleman is, but powerful, powerful poem. apt response to Egil's claim that the beast bit him. The beast and bite you is the wrong type of venom, snake bite you. Should have been a labaria. Should have been a bushmaster, right? Then bushmaster bite you, your skin and drop your flesh dropping off your skin. Should have been something even more venomous. And watch out, because the snake might still, whoever you refer to a snake, they might still bite you. Because the snake might be living right where you are, Quarter Jill, right there. A man who claims to be a religious man, right? That is the man's reaction to what is going on. No empathy, no sympathy, no remorse, none at all. And I'm saying this, he's doing that because of the people, the ethnicity of the people who were involved. That is the way they treat our indigenous brothers. Remember Madja Fire? Madja Fire, government offered those people, the parents of those who died, $5 million. That is what a life worth. $5 million Guyana dollars, less than 25,000 US dollars. And for those who are injured, $3 million. That is what they did then. That is what they did. Look at what they did to the people who lost their life, those 3 men at Linden. The opposition leader mentioned it, where Ikin was in charge, and 3 protesters, or 3 men who were there, they were there among the protests, died. The government had a commission of inquiry, and they gave the people next to nothing. They gave the family, surviving family, next to nothing. That is what you have. That is what you have, right? So, you know, as I move on, but let me play this one for you, Jill. Let me play this one for you, Jill. I get a little more time. Let me play this one for you, Jill. Ajil, time will tell. Time will tell. As the poem, part of the poem said a while ago, there's a time for everything. You know that, Ecclesiastic 3. Time for everything under the heavens, man. Time for everything. Your time coming. Your time is coming. Now, I saw a letter. Remember, I was telling you guys about this defense fund, which I believe should be established. And all of us should seek to contribute whatever we can to this defense fund. I hope the people organize it and send the information so it can be widely circulated. I am willing to do my part to have the information circulated as to how people can contribute to this defense fund. I also mentioned, I think it was Wednesday, or perhaps even before, that coming out of the incident, this tragedy, there are some stories of persons who performed heroic acts. I said that those persons should be identified and given national awards, the appropriate national award. Somebody, I think it was Winston, said is a Kasi Crown of Valor. Whatever it is. Not this promotion, but there's a Lance Corporal, for example, who you are told saved 11 persons, Lance Corporal from the GDF. Once you investigate and you can confirm that that is so, those persons should get national award. National award. There's a man, I think the name is there somewhere now, who had a vanille, a roll of vanille. And a woman said she was there struggling with her baby because the 3-year-old had been swept away. And the man gished the vanille for her to hold on. And she saw him died right there before. He went down right there. That man deserve a posthumous award. And then the fisherman, Arish or whatever he names, who went out there, used his resources, and was able to discover exactly where this vessel went down. So despite what they're telling you, this vessel had no signal, no emergency signal emitting to say where it was. So it's a couple of days after, I think a day or two after, fisherman go, he saw evidence that the boat went down. He said he saw oil and then things floated up. Those people should be awarded. And I saw a petition to His Excellency the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, requesting the posthumous bestowal of the Order of Excellence upon Omar Linden Harris. His Excellency the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Subject, petition for a posthumous award of the Order of Excellence to Omar Linden Harris. Your Excellency, we the citizens of Guyana and supporters of justice, national recognition, and the highest ideals of human courage, respectfully petition that the Order of Excellence, the highest national order of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, be conferred posthumously upon Omar Linden Harris. This petition is made in recognition of an extraordinary act of self-sacrifice and heroism displayed by Omar Linden Harris during the sinking of the MV Barima. As described in the call for a citation on Facebook, when faced with imminent danger and possessing a piece of floating vanillé that could have saved his own life, Omar Linden Harris observed a young indigenous mother struggling to stay afloat while attempting to save her infant child. Rather than secure his own survival, he surrendered the floating device to her, thereby enabling the mother and her baby to live. Shortly thereafter, he lost his own life and drowned. Such a selfless act represents the very highest standard of courage, compassion, sacrifice, and service to one's fellow citizen. Omar Linden Harris knowingly gave up his only means of survival so that others might live, demonstrating a level of moral courage that transcends all divisions of race, class, and circumstance. His action embodied the noblest values of the Guyanese nation and serve as an enduring example for future generations. The Order of Excellence is reserved for those whose service and conduct bring the greatest distinction to Guyana. The supreme sacrifice made by Omar Lyndon Harris constitutes an act of exceptional national significance and places him among those whose character and deeds deserve permanent recognition by the state. Accordingly, we respectfully urge Your Excellency and Advisory Council of the Order of Guyana to approve the posthumous conferment of the Order of Excellence upon Omar Lyndon Harris, so that the nation may formally honor his extraordinary heroism and ensure that his example remains permanently inscribed in the history and conscience of Guyana. We submit this petition with profound respect and in the firm belief that recognition of such uncommon courage strengthens the moral fabric of our republic. Respectfully submitted, citizens of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Right? Yes, Lloyd, and then we are too that a 9-year-old girl, that thing was there, a 9-year-old girl saved the life of a 13-year-old. Now that is easy to verify, right? The 9-year-old who could swim, she said she saved a 13-year-old. It was there. When you read this, how can you sort of jumping up and running and get outreach, try to divert attention, right? These are the type of things that should be looking at. Put together some committee or something like that to investigate, because we're going to find in things like this, a lot of people are caught with all sort of story, right? You want to make sure that those, if you're going to confer any award, that it is conferred on the right persons. Having said that, this government, I don't think, I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, the Irfan Ali government has never given out national awards to anyone. That is my recollection. None, no national award. The last national awards in Guyana were handed out by President Granger. I think that would have been in 2022. No, not 22. What year it was? 2020, I think, right? I think it's early 2020. Yeah, early 2020 for the Republic anniversary. The last set of national awards. Last set of national awards. And if you don't want to give national awards, at least to everyone or to your FFFs, because once you talk about national awards, a lot of FFFs are going to come out and get national awards, right? But President David Granger is the last president to have given awards. That is my recollection in 2020. I got to mix up with the year. I think it's 2020. Because that is the year I got a national award, right? So you have that. You have that. So I'll say it again, in addition to this defense fund, this is something that should be looked at to recognize those heroes who saved persons, saved the life. This man, Aris, oh my God, I don't believe I would have been able to do that. I don't believe in the panic of the moment, in this darkness and so on. You got something that you're clinging to. You're clinging to this thing for dear life. And you decide to make this ultimate sacrifice by passing this vinale, this role of floating vinale, to this indigenous woman, somebody you don't know, so that she and her baby could be saved. What more do we want? What about unselfish behavior? What more? What more? And I know they're calling for a particular award, but I know, as I've said before, back in colonial times, when there was any extraordinary act of bravery, the persons were awarded the George Medal. I remember retired and late former retired Assistant Commissioner Luknath Singh. There's a story that he was a constable on the Essequibo coast, and he was doing a payroll escort, and an attempt was made to rob the paymaster, and Luknath fought with the bandit, received injuries and all of that, and he was awarded the George Medal. I remember too, some years back, police detective Richard Feikel, I think he was a sergeant then on the Essequibo coast again, when they had that bank robbery at Anna Regina. It was Richard Feikel, I think it was a Friday afternoon like today too, who stood up and confronted the bandits. He was shot and killed. He was given, Larry Lewis was the commissioner then, and he was given a national award. I don't know what exactly, posthumously. I don't know what I can't remember what the award was, but Feichel was given a national award. I don't think anyone after then was given any national award for bravery. National award for bravery. But these things have to be recognized. But this government recognized thieving. A thief, they know that. They know how to recognize thieves by giving them more contracts, pushing more money their way. That is what they do, right? That is what they do. You're asking, which robbery you're asking about, Patrick? The one at Anna Regina? I think that people were charged and all of that. I remember one of the big bank robberies that we had was at Rosal on the quarantine. And Akin was one of the operators in that. And it is said that some wet money was recovered in the Blackbush area there. Blackbush area, wet money was recovered. And a man told me, I would never forget that. The late CC told me, at the time he was the commander of Borbies when that robbery took place and when the operation to capture the bandits took place. And when he talked to a senior man, I call him thing, talk to a senior man. And the senior man said, look, don't fight up with the thing because the money insured. In other words, he was saying that if people help themselves to the money, it's not no big thing because the bank get insurance and insurance can take care of the money. Yeah, CC mentioned that. The address the date. CC mentioned that. Then we had, some time ago, as I've said, we had a bank robbery many years ago, maybe in the early 70s, late 60s. It was in Regent Street, one of those banks in Regent Street. We had a bank robbery there. We had the one that I referred to at Anna Regina. And you have those things. You have those issues, right? So, folks, what? I'm trying to wind down now. But I think there's another matter. I don't have enough time to go into this in any great detail. So I don't want to leave you in the half. It's not a good thing to leave people halfway. But I want to ask some questions because there have been some incidents over the past months that have died in natural death. They have died in natural death. What happened to the incident with the young, what's his name, in the Skeldon district there, with that youngster, this 16-year-old that the police pursued, and he ended up dead. Altaf King. What happened to that? You see, if you don't keep these matters in the news, they gone under the carpet. Young 16-year-old Altaf King of Corriberton. Remember, he was struck and killed? The police chased him because he was riding a motorcycle without helmet, and maybe the bicycle was naked, as we would say. Struck and killed. That is about a month and a half to 2 months now. What has happened to that matter? What has happened to that matter? Right? What happened to the report that we heard that guns and exhibits went missing from the Covan John property room? What happened to that matter? Have you heard anything more about that matter? Well, the two cousins from Clonbrook, the police corporal was found and he's charged with causing death by dangerous driving. So no matter is before the court. There was a wanted bulletin issue for a man who shot and killed a Cuban national. I can pull all these things up. What happened to that matter? What happened to that? Cuban national shot and killed things in Forsyth Street somewhere there. What happened to that? These things are just slipping through, you know. These things are slipping through. Questions are not asked. And when the people from the media beat these people, they're not asking. You must make a note. So every time you see them, you must ask, what is the position with this matter? So when the president went there to say getting outreach and Jack do outreach, somebody should be there to ask, what is the position with this matter? What is the position? You got to ask. The farm gate matter. Well, with the farm gate, what really going on there now is that having MV Barima come up, and that took over the attention. So they're now running out all over the place. Promised $3 billion to the Amerindian Association, Amerindian People's Association. Gone around now talking about model villages and so on, right? And the Brazeman made a statement here. Let me, I think I screenshot it. Hear what Brazeman said. Hear what Brazeman said. I hope I have it. He said President Ali is a visionary. Hear what Brazeman, I think sometime yesterday or last night. He said President Irfan Ali is a visionary. His brainchild, the Model Village Initiative, in which 23 villages will be transformed into beautiful, safe, green, modern family communities, will be his defining legacy. No, Brazeman, no. Irfan Ali defining legacy can be MV Barima and the 150 acre mega farm. That will be his defining legacy. Let me tell you that Brazeman, he knows they're so far up that he can't see Ali. He make an impression on people backside and all sort of thing. He knows so far up the PPP backside inside the body. Can you get license to do that? 007, that he can't see nothing. So he is telling us that this model community that the president talking about can be his defining legacy. Irfan Ali defining legacy will be the many scandals and corruption. You get Madhya fire. You get this Embri Barima, where all these people have died. Up to now, we can't tell how many persons have died, right? We can't tell. That can be the farm, this mega farm. All the allegations of corruption that have gone uninvestigated, including allegations made against himself and Bharat Jagdeo. That will be his defining legacy, Brazeman. That is Adriana Young, the Henry Boys. Those are things that are going to be Irfan Ali's defining legacy. Jagdeo's defining legacy was them enough hundreds and hundreds of African, in particular, youths who were killed during that period of time. That is Jagdeo defining legacy. Don't care what you do. That is going to be everything. The allegation about Sugate, that will be there with him all the time, no matter what he does. That is going to be, that is his defining legacy. That is what is going to be there. So don't come and try to blow smoke up and try to hoodwink people. I say you do all of these things. You talk about rapid. Let me read out some more what you talk about. He said not the rapid infrastructural growth, not the rapid industrialization, not the economic transformation, not the social benefits of education, health, and other services. The fact that his vision will transform the village economy and ecosystem, create gemstone, and will be his greatest legacy, an intersection of people, culture, infrastructure, built on the foundation of faith. Visionary? Visionary. I tell you, Brazeman, listen to this carefully. When history was written, or is being written, Forbes Burnham, Lyndon Forbes was Samson Burnham, whose 41st death anniversary was yesterday. Despite what they say, when you look at it, anybody, objective person, will go down as a statesman, right? As a brilliant speaker, person who was eloquent, right? Person who was respected. Them the way you get now. I say anytime you put man of the decade or even man of the year for a finale, you have to have the prefix. You have to have the word before man, right? Corruption of the year, leader of corruption of the year. Them are the things you got to put. Right? Yeah, he was an orator. You can't stop that. Burnham spoke so eloquently. It was a joy listening to him. So you get some people reparative, reciprocity, and all sort of crap for things. That is what you have. That is what we have now. Don't let me run away from it. That is what we have. Burnham speaking, Desmond Hoyt, proud to hear them speak. Granger spoke well. He was not as flamboyant as those others. But Bonham and Desmond Hoyt, I always tell you about the story with Desmond Hoyt. He said he's alleged to have said that a certain man was a homosexual, and then he said a certain man was a womanizer. And when the certain man was confronted with the statements, he said, well, Desmond Hoyt must make up his mind. One time he calling me a homosexual, or as being guy and say anti-man, and one time he's saying a womanizer. He must make up his mind which is which. And at the later interview, the person asks Desmond Hoyt, put it to Desmond Hoyt, that the man say, you must make up your mind. Because one time you say he is a homosexual, or as he's anti-man, and the next time you say he's a womanizer. Which is which? And here, what was Desmond Hoyt's response? So, as far as I'm aware, the two proclivities are not mutually exclusive. In other words, it can be both. That is what Desmond Hoyt is reported to have said. As far as I'm aware, the two proclivities, that is being an homosexual and being a womanizer, he said the two proclivities are not mutually exclusive. You think them then now can use them language? They become a cuss nigga yard behavior, yard foul behavior, they become a cuss. That is what they will do. Because they don't have command of the language. They don't have command of the language. Folks, this is Friday afternoon.